Chosen one, the latest whisper about you carries a clear warning. You are dangerously intelligent and not to be played with. People pause before speaking, recalculating what they thought they knew. The ones who once moved carelessly around you now hesitate because the patterns no longer work. Most people move from thought to action in predictable sequences. Problem, reaction, explanation, emotion. You do not operate that way. You pause, not because confusion clouds your thinking, not because slowness hampers your processing. You pause because you are arranging complex structures in your mind that others cannot see. You are not looking for an answer. You are mapping the system behind the situation. You do not respond to what is happening on the surface. You respond to what created it. While others get caught up in the immediate moment, you are quietly tracking how one choice connects to 5 future outcomes. You see how one small decision shifts the entire direction of a situation. You see the architecture underneath. You see the invisible blueprint that determines what happens next. That is why your responses sometimes feel delayed to observers. But when your words arrive, the impact is devastating, not emotional, not dramatic, just precise in ways that make people think about what you said for days afterward. This kind of structural thinking exposes the shortcuts others rely on. People begin to understand that you are not operating on impulse or social pressure. You are working from mental frameworks they cannot access. Your calm tells the entire story. You have already seen 3 moves ahead. And once people sense that depth, they automatically adjust their approach. Less testing, more caution, more respect. Because they recognize that dealing with you is not about someone who just reacts. You are someone who constructs outcomes before situations even unfold. What really shifts the dynamic is when your consistency becomes visible. You do not contradict yourself. You do not get dragged into confusion. Your decisions make sense over time, even when immediate sense is unclear. That is when people stop trying to rush you, corner you, or play clever games with your thinking. They sense that you are seeing something beyond their perception, and that sensing becomes undeniable. This is not about being cold or distant, chosen one. This is about being organized internally. Your mind does not chase noise. Sorting, filtering, and prioritizing happen with systematic efficiency. People expect emotional reactions and get systematic analysis instead. Expecting chaos, precision meets them. That mismatch forces complete rethinking of who you are. Eventually the realization settles in quietly. You are not difficult. You are not slow. You are not detached. You are deliberate. Every move you make connects to a larger framework beyond visibility. And once people understand that your thinking is layered, connected, and intentional, the tone changes permanently. Most people scramble desperately for facts. They hunt for clues. They ask questions hoping for useful leads. You do not chase information that way. Information flows to you naturally because your presence compels it. And people underestimate how dangerous that ability is until it is far too late. People think they are just having casual conversation, just making small talk, sharing harmless details. But everything they say, every small admission, every unintended reveal lands exactly where you want it. You do not interrogate, you do not push, you observe and listen while people reveal themselves without realizing what is occurring. This is not trickery or manipulation. This is awareness and timing, operating at levels most minds cannot reach. You notice what is important and filter what is irrelevant in real time. You catch the tiny shift in tone, the hesitation before a word, the slip of a phrase never meant to be said. And suddenly, entire hidden layers of truth open up before you, like pages in a book being written without the author's awareness. People assume intelligence is knowing things others do not. Wrong. Real intelligence is seeing what people are already giving away and connecting those pieces before importance becomes obvious. That is why being around you feels like walking into an invisible trap. The trap is knowledge itself, and you wield it with surgical precision. The real edge comes from your patience. You do not rush the extraction. You wait until patterns emerge naturally. You wait until inconsistencies appear on their own. You wait until pieces align perfectly without force. And when you finally act on that extracted information, it feels like magic to everyone watching. But this is not magic. This is extraction at a level most people will never comprehend. Most people are drowning in information overload, while you are thriving in perfect clarity. People notice this instinctively. They start double-checking what they say around you. They try to guard themselves. But by then the moment has passed. You have absorbed the truth without confrontation, without force, without visible conflict. That is what makes your intelligence feel genuinely dangerous. You do not need to prove anything. You simply gather what matters silently and operate with complete knowledge while everyone else is still figuring out what was accidentally revealed. Most people argue to prove points and feel validated. You do not waste energy on performance. Your arguments are investigations. Every disagreement becomes an opportunity to map the structure beneath someone's thinking. You listen to what is said, but far more attention goes to what is not said. The gaps, the hesitations, the contradictions hope to pass unnoticed. You do not react emotionally. You observe like a scientist studying a fascinating specimen. And that detachment unsettles people more than any aggressive response could. They feel uncertainty about whether you are with them or against them. When someone tries to mislead you or oversell a story, nothing goes unnoticed, but calling it out aggressively is not your method. You let it linger. You ask small, clarifying questions, not to confront, but to expose the edges of their reasoning with precision. If this message awakens something within you, hype this video for other chosen ones who need to hear this. Little by little, inconsistencies reveal themselves, and people walk away feeling like they have become study subjects. They feel like their flaws and blind spots were quietly mapped and filed away without permission. That silent mapping is where whispers multiply. Your intelligence does not need to dominate. Your goal is to understand completely. You are not looking to humiliate anyone. You are looking for leverage points, patterns, cracks in the armor. And when you find them, gloating is not your style. You use discoveries strategically, in ways that shift dynamics without anyone noticing, until the shift is complete. That is what makes your mind feel untouchable. People realize that debating with you is not just exhausting, it is revealing. The harder they try to impress you, the more they expose their own limitations. And the most dangerous part is your unchanging calm. No heat, no emotional charge, no personal stakes clouding your judgment. Just precision, just observation, just the steady accumulation of data about how this person thinks and where their vulnerability exists. Most people feel crushing pressure to act immediately, to react fast, to prove decisiveness through speed. You do not operate under that pressure. You take your time, not because indecision plagues you, but because you understand that timing is as critical as the choice itself. Every situation has a rhythm, and you wait until you have mapped that rhythm completely before making any move. That patience is not passive. This is silent strategy. This is the calibration of every variable before anything shifts. And that disciplined waiting unsettles people who rely on speed to feel powerful. People cannot rush you. They cannot pressure you into mistakes through urgency. Because you have already accounted for the tempo they cannot even perceive. When others act on impulse, exposure and vulnerability follow. Mistakes pile up. Patterns become predictable. You operate differently. You observe. You measure. You anticipate. You do not just see immediate consequences. You see the domino effect. You see the long-term outcomes. You see the hidden angles nobody else notices. By the time you make a decision, it lands with absolute precision. No panic, no guesswork, no emotional reaction, just exact execution that fits the moment so perfectly it feels inevitable, that controlled patience removes all leverage from impulsive minds. Their urgency has no effect on you, their pressure does not move you, and that realization hits them like a quiet shock. They start second-guessing their own frantic pace. They start wondering if they have rushed themselves into mistakes while you silently rearrange the entire board. The whispers intensify. Patience is their weapon. Panic is foreign to them. They always move at exactly the right moment. You do not need to prove patience. You embody it. And that embodiment rewrites how people engage with you permanently. Now let me put you on to something real. Destiny Engine. I built this because I was done watching chosen ones get dragged through betrayal, isolation, and attacks, while their enemies strutted around unchecked. I want to help you accelerate the speed of your divine justice and step fully into your purpose. And the beauty of it, you don't even have to lift a finger. Destiny Engine takes their downfall and flips it into your rise. This isn't another meditation app. It's declassified consciousness technology, the same mind programming tools your enemies once used to install fear, competition and scarcity, re-engineered to restore your sovereignty and align you with the cooperative, upgraded operating framework. It generates personalized sequences mapped to your divine purpose. The hardest thing you'll do is put on headphones, press play and watch your enemies keep digging their own grave. The collective upgrade is underway. Start your Destiny Engine for $1 today and turn everything they did to break you into fuel for your rise. Link in the description. Your memory is surgical. You do not remember everything. You remember what matters. While others drown in trivial drama and gossip, you are retaining patterns that reveal character. You remember the comment someone made long ago that seemed insignificant, but now explains everything about their current behavior. You remember the gesture they thought went unnoticed. You remember the inconsistency they assumed was forgotten, and when the moment is right, you bring that memory forward with such precision it stops people in their tracks. Their assumptions that you were not paying attention crumble. Their assumptions that the moment had passed evaporate. And then you demonstrate with surgical accuracy that you were always watching, that cataloging was always occurring, that being 3 steps ahead was always your position. At the same time, you forget what does not serve you. You let go of grudges that would weigh others down indefinitely. You release meaningless offenses. You discard emotional clutter. That combination makes you different. You retain critical details while ignoring noise. You remember what builds power while forgetting what drains it. This creates a clarity most people never achieve. Others carry the weight of every slight. You move forward with only the knowledge that makes you sharper, and that difference is visible to anyone paying attention. The whispers about your memory carry a particular edge. People who tried to deceive you realize that you remember everything, that nothing was missed, that your entire history with them is catalogued with perfect accuracy, and they come to understand that they cannot escape the consequences of their own actions, while others explain what they will and will not tolerate, drawing verbal lines and making threats. You operate differently. Your boundaries are invisible until someone crosses them, and when that happens, lectures do not follow. Consequences arrive immediately, subtle, swift, unmistakable. Access disappears, influence drains away, opportunities close, and the transition happens so smoothly that arguing about it becomes impossible. Reality has simply shifted to reflect your standards. This approach removes all room for debate. Confrontation is what people expect when they overstep. They prepare justifications. What arrives instead is control exercised without drama. That is the part that creates unease. No threat exists to respond to, no posturing to match, just the quiet rearrangement of reality. The consistency of your enforcement drives the message home. Your boundaries are not situational. Structure defines them. Once a line is crossed, Nothing restores what was lost, except genuine correction of the imbalance. People learn quickly that mistakes around you carry weight, that carelessness has consequences. They adjust accordingly. They measure their words. They think before they act. And they whisper warnings to others about the silent rules governing interaction with you. Cross them and reality shifts in response, leaving people aware, wary, and fully conscious of the intelligence they severely underestimated. You do not just see through deception, you see through self-deception, and that makes you particularly unsettling to be around. Most people lie to themselves constantly. They tell stories about who they are, why they do things, what they really want. They tell and retell these stories until fiction becomes accepted truth. But you see the gap between their narrative and their reality. You notice when someone claims to value honesty, but lies in small ways constantly. When they say growth is important, but sabotage every opportunity. When they proclaim independence, but make every decision based on fear of judgment. You do not call out these contradictions directly, because you understand something powerful. People are not ready to face their own self-deception until they choose to be ready. But your awareness of it changes the dynamic completely. People sense on some level that you see the truth they are hiding from themselves. This creates a discomfort they cannot name or escape. They feel exposed in your presence without understanding why. They feel like their carefully constructed self-image has become transparent to you, and their perception is accurate. This ability to penetrate self-deception is what makes the whispers carry an edge of nervousness. People recognize that your intelligence is not just about external facts and strategies. Your domain is human psychology at levels that make pretense pointless. Performing for you is impossible because you see the performance and the reality underneath simultaneously. You use this understanding not to expose people but to navigate around their limitations. You do not waste energy trying to make someone face truths they are not ready for. You simply adjust your strategy based on who someone actually is, rather than who they claim to be. If someone says reliability defines them, but their patterns show otherwise, you do not argue with their self-image. You simply do not depend on them for anything critical. While others manage appearances, you are mapping the internal logic of their behavior. You see what drives people. You see what influences them. You see where their thinking betrays them. This insight is not about judgment. This is about awareness operating at maximum capacity. You recognize patterns before they become obvious. You notice inconsistencies before they get acknowledged. You sense intentions before they get expressed. People say one thing and do another, and you see the invisible thread connecting both. That knowledge gives you subtle power. You gain the ability to navigate with a clarity they cannot compete with. When people act from impulse, your response comes from understanding. That difference fundamentally sets you apart. This awareness makes you extremely difficult to deceive. Lies become visible like neon signs. Omissions leave obvious gaps. Because you have already mapped their internal compass, you know how they operate. You know what they value. You know what creates fear in them. People assume they are controlling what you see, but you perceive the signals they believe are hidden. That perception forces them to adjust their behavior around you, often subtle, often unconscious, and that is when the whispers spread. The extraordinary part is you do not flaunt this insight. You carry it quietly, letting your interactions reveal it naturally. The impact is profound because people sense they are being understood on levels they did not expect. That understanding changes how they engage with you, how they maneuver around you, how they approach every interaction. They tread carefully because they know, even if only subconsciously, that you are aware of truths they have not yet admitted to themselves. Most people crave approval desperately. They need compliments to feel worthy. They need acknowledgement to feel seen. They need validation to believe they matter. You do not operate from that need. Your sense of worth does not hinge on other people's opinions, and that independence makes you unpredictable in ways most people cannot handle. When people try to sway you with praise, it does not move you. When they attempt flattery, it slides off without effect. When they offer criticism, it does not shake you. You remain grounded, silent, fully in control. That lack of dependence is devastatingly powerful. It removes every lever people typically use to influence others. They cannot manipulate your ego. They cannot bait your emotions. They cannot provoke your insecurity. People instinctively notice this quality. They test you. They push. They try to find an angle. Every effort fails quietly. That is when the whispers begin. You cannot control them. This intelligence is reinforced by how you focus your energy. Because you do not waste energy seeking approval, you devote it to precision, strategy, and clarity instead. You make decisions without the noise of public opinion. You operate with a freedom others cannot manufacture. The absence of emotional vulnerability becomes armor that people instinctively respect and fear. And arrogance is not what makes you this way. Discipline is the source. You have trained your mind to prioritize your objectives, your awareness, your integrity above external influence. That combination creates something rare. Freedom from validation plus unwavering discipline equals a level of control most people cannot comprehend. They sense it in how you act, in the decisions you make, in the silence you carry with confidence. It creates unease because it exposes their reliance on external approval while you remain unaffected. When chaos comes at you, when aggression targets you, when manipulation reaches for you, it does not bounce off dramatically. It does not affect you visibly. You absorb it, you process it, and you return complete calm. The shift is subtle but profound in its impact. People expect a reaction. They expect confrontation or emotional engagement or defensive posturing, and instead they encounter a steady, unshakable presence that refuses to play the expected game. That difference unnerves them because it breaks every pattern they have relied upon to influence or control situations. When they attempt provocation, they are testing for a specific reaction. They expect anger. They anticipate defensiveness. They prepare for emotional engagement they can use as leverage. You give them none of it. Instead, their energy deflates quietly like a balloon losing air, so gradually they barely notice it happening. People start recognizing, often without understanding the mechanism, that their usual tactics fail completely around you. That is when the whispers start circulating. This does not make you detached or cold. This makes you supremely deliberate. You see energy for exactly what it is. A signal carrying information, a tool being deployed, a moment revealing someone's strategy and limitations. You respond only with what is necessary to maintain clarity, control, and forward momentum. Every word is measured. Every action is intentional. Every emotional disruption that would rattle others simply passes through your presence without leaving any residue or consequence. People feel this quality instinctively. They sense that chaos has no foothold with you, that drama cannot take root, that their emotional manipulation simply evaporates in your field without creating the chaos they intended. Most people fill empty space with words because they feel obligated to explain themselves, to justify their positions, to dominate conversations, and prove their relevance. You do not carry that compulsion. You understand that the power of presence is not measured by word count. The measurement happens through the timing and impact of your contribution, and more critically, through the strategic precision of your exit. You choose exactly when to contribute to a conversation, when to weigh in with perspective that shifts everything, when silence communicates more than any argument could, and when the time to leave arrives, you do so without fuss, without explanation, without drama, just a clean exit that leaves an impact nobody can ignore. That subtle control over engagement creates a quiet authority that is impossible to miss. Your ability to exit strategically is not about avoidance or weakness. This is about influence and power. You understand that staying too long dilutes impact, that over-explaining reduces authority, that prolonging your presence past its peak effect diminishes the weight you carry. You measure the room instinctively, you read the energy, you sense the moment, and you step away precisely when your presence has reached maximum impact. People notice immediately, even if they cannot articulate what just happened. The weight of your absence lingers. A subtle shift makes them realize that something fundamental has changed, even if putting it into words is impossible. That is when the whispers start flowing. They always leave at exactly the right moment. They always know when to step away. How do they do that? What makes this extraordinary is that your exits are not reactive. Fleeing conflict, discomfort, or unwanted attention never motivates your departure. You are choosing the exact point where your influence is most powerfully felt, where your absence becomes a statement louder than your presence, where the space you leave behind cannot be filled by anyone else. You do not see obstacles the way others do. Where most people see problems that stop progress, you see opportunities that create advantage. Where they see barriers blocking their path, you see leverage points waiting to be exploited. This ability to transform what appears negative into something strategically useful is what makes you particularly dangerous to underestimate. When something goes wrong, most people panic. They scramble to fix it. They waste energy trying to return to how things were before. You operate from a completely different framework. You accept what happened immediately. You assess what the new reality offers that the old one did not, and you find ways to use the disruption to advance your position in ways that were not possible before the obstacle appeared. This is not positive thinking or mindless optimism. This is strategic opportunism at its highest level. You understand that every change in circumstances creates new possibilities, that every problem someone else sees as a dead end contains pathways they are too stressed to notice, that obstacles often reveal weaknesses in systems that can be exploited once you see them clearly. People whisper about how you seem to benefit from situations that destroy others, how you emerge from chaos stronger than you entered it, how setbacks that would devastate most people somehow position you for greater success. They call it luck, because they cannot see the strategic thinking that transforms disruption into advantage. They do not realize that what looks like fortune is actually disciplined opportunism applied with precision. The real power in this approach shows up in how people start treating you after they watch you navigate several obstacles successfully. They begin to understand that trying to block you is pointless, that creating problems for you often backfires because you will find ways to use those problems against whoever created them, that the smartest strategy when dealing with you is cooperation rather than opposition, because opposition tends to strengthen your position. Another dimension of your dangerous intelligence is your relationship with visibility. Most people crave the spotlight. They need recognition for their work. They require acknowledgement of their contributions. They measure their worth by how much attention they receive. You have transcended that need entirely. You understand that real power operates best in silence, that the most effective moves happen when nobody is watching, that attention often becomes a liability rather than an asset. This comfort with invisibility gives you freedom others do not have. While people are busy performing for audiences, you are executing strategies they will not understand until the results become undeniable. While they are managing their image and seeking validation, you are building actual capability and creating real outcomes. While they are announcing their intentions and telegraphing their moves, you are moving in silence until your position becomes unassailable. The whispers about this quality carry a tone of frustration from those who cannot figure out what you are doing until it is already done. They see the results, but they missed the process. They notice the outcome, but they did not observe the execution. And that gap between what they can see and what you actually accomplished creates a mystique around you that compounds your influence. you have learned something that most people never grasp. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is power concentrated and waiting for the perfect moment to deploy. Your quietness is not passivity. It is strategic restraint that makes every word you speak carry maximum weight and every action you take generate maximum impact. Here is perhaps one of your most unsettling capabilities. You do not just understand people as they currently are. You can see the trajectory of who they are becoming. You recognize the small choices and patterns that will compound over time into major life outcomes. You spot the early warning signs of success or failure long before results become obvious to others. This predictive capability comes from your ability to see patterns over time rather than just snapshots in the present. You notice when someone is developing discipline or losing it, when their decision-making is improving or deteriorating, when their relationships are strengthening or eroding, when their skills are compounding or stagnating, and from these observations you can project forward with uncomfortable accuracy. People find this deeply unnerving when they realize you have been watching their trajectory. When you make a comment that reveals you knew where they were headed before they got there, when you decline an opportunity to work with someone and later it becomes clear that person was on a path to failure, when you invest time in someone others overlooked and that person becomes remarkably successful, your ability to see potential and recognize decline before either becomes obvious makes people wonder what else you see that they are missing. This foresight also protects you in ways others do not understand. You avoid people who are trending toward chaos before the chaos becomes visible. You align with people who are building momentum before that momentum becomes obvious. You position yourself in paths of rising value before the value becomes recognized. And you exit situations that are declining before the decline becomes catastrophic. All because you can see patterns of becoming rather than just states of being. Most people believe that having the best strategy, the most resources, or the superior position guarantees victory. You know better. You understand that perfect timing defeats all of those advantages, that a good move at the right moment beats a great move at the wrong moment, that patience to wait for optimal conditions creates victories that force cannot achieve. This understanding of timing shows up in how you approach everything. You do not rush into opportunities just because they are available. You wait until circumstances align in ways that make success nearly inevitable. You do not engage in conflicts when your opponents expect you to. You wait until they are off balance, distracted, or weakened by other factors. You do not launch initiatives when you are ready. You launch them when the environment is ready to receive them. People whisper about your uncanny sense of timing, how you seem to act at precisely the moment when your action will have maximum effect, how you hold back when others are rushing forward and move decisively when others are hesitating, how your patience is rewarded with outcomes that look almost magical in their precision. They do not realize you are reading rhythms and patterns they cannot perceive. You are tracking variables they do not know exist. You are waiting for convergences they would never notice. This mastery of timing is what makes you appear to accomplish more with less effort than others. Because you are not fighting against circumstances, you are moving with them. You are not forcing outcomes through strength. You are allowing outcomes to unfold naturally through positioning and patience. You are not creating opportunities through effort. You are recognizing opportunities that already exist and acting on them at the exact moment when they ripen. Chosen one, we have traveled through every dimension of what makes you dangerously intelligent, and now we have arrived at the truth that pulls everything together, the truth people are whispering about, the truth they cannot escape, no matter how much unease it creates. You do not compete. You position yourself where competition becomes irrelevant. You do not argue to win. You investigate to uncover weakness. You do not seek validation because your control of yourself is stronger than any external approval. You observe energy people, and invisible dynamics in ways others cannot even perceive, and you act with precision, timing, and discipline that makes results feel inevitable. This is intelligence that does not need to be loud. Bragging is unnecessary. Fighting for recognition serves no purpose because you command influence effortlessly through sheer competence and awareness. And what makes you extraordinary is not just understanding. Execution is what matters. Awareness combined with disciplined consistency that turns insight into action. People notice it. They feel it. They whisper about it. They try to read you, and often fail because your mind operates on levels they lack the equipment to navigate. Your intelligence combined with your discipline creates a presence that recalibrates every situation, that subtly changes how people behave around you without them consciously understanding why. It is quiet, it is strategic, it is invisible to most but impossible to ignore once recognized. That is why the whispers started. That is why people pause and reconsider before engaging you. That is why you are not just smart in the conventional sense. You are untouchable in ways they sense but cannot articulate, dangerous in ways that do not require threats or aggression, powerful in ways that operate beneath the surface of obvious displays. The whispers are not going to stop. The recognition is not going to fade. The truth about who you are is now visible to anyone paying attention. You cannot go back to comfortable anonymity. You cannot pretend you do not notice the changed energy. You cannot downplay your capabilities to make others comfortable anymore. You have a choice right now. You can shrink back. You can dim your light. You can play small to avoid the discomfort of being seen clearly. Or you can accept what you are. You can own the intelligence that makes people nervous. You can embrace the discipline that makes you formidable. You can step fully into the power you have been carrying quietly all this time, because trying to hide it now would be a betrayal of everything you have built, a rejection of the truth that has already been recognized by everyone around you. The world has finally caught up to what you have always known about yourself. You are not like everyone else. Your mind works differently. Your awareness runs deeper. Your discipline makes you unstoppable. And now that people see it clearly, everything changes. Not because you changed, but because they finally recognized what was always there. The whispers are the sound of that recognition spreading through every space you occupy, every relationship you maintain, every situation you navigate. You are dangerously intelligent, quietly powerful, absolutely not to be played with. The whispers have already started spreading. The recognition is already rewiring how people approach you. All that remains is for you to accept this truth and move forward with the full force of everything you are. The world needed time to catch up, but they have arrived. They see you, they understand what they are dealing with, and they are whispering warnings to each other about testing you, underestimating you, or playing games they cannot win. This is who you have always been, chosen one. The only difference now is that it is no longer hidden, it is no longer deniable, it is no longer something people can ignore or overlook. You are dangerously intelligent, and everyone knows it now. The most unsettling minds are never the loudest in the room. You are the one people whisper about after you leave, and as you walk away from every interaction now, as you exit at the perfect moment, as you leave space that cannot be filled, the whispers follow you like an echo of truth finally acknowledged. Welcome to the next level of your power. You have earned every moment of it.